History often turns on a single decision, and few decisions were as explosive as the one that pushed Germany toward the Soviet Union in 1941. But what if that moment never happened? What if, on that tense summer morning, instead of launching the largest invasion in human history, Hitler simply stayed still? No tanks crossing the Soviet border, no shockwave across Europe. Just a sudden, heavy pause that pulls the world into a completely different direction. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. From that single pause, the entire future of World War II takes on a new shape. One filled with rising tension, long shadows, and an outcome no one on Earth could predict. To understand the scale of this alternate world, we need to see how massive the real invasion was. Operation Barbarossa was the point where Germany stretched itself beyond its limits. It was the moment the war became too big to control. Millions of soldiers marched east. Thousands of tanks rolled through forests and fields. German supply lines struggled. Winter crushed them. And in the end, the Soviet Union became the wall Germany could not break. That wall shattered Hitler's dreams of victory. But if Germany never attacks the Soviet Union, that wall never rises. And suddenly, Germany has room to breathe, room to grow, and room to focus its power elsewhere. In this different timeline, Germany shifts from desperate to dangerous. With the Eastern Front closed, Hitler controls most of Europe without facing the largest country on the continent. His army is no longer divided. His weapons are not drained. And his generals, instead of planning for a massive invasion, turn their eyes toward other fronts. The question changes from how long can Germany fight to how far can Germany go. The first place Germany would send its strength is the West. In our timeline, the Battle of Britain ended with Germany stepping back. They couldn't defeat the Royal Air Force and they lacked the focus to try again. But here, without millions of soldiers dying in the East, Germany could return to British skies stronger than before. More planes, more bombs, more pressure. The Luftwaffe would rebuild quickly. They would keep attacking ports, factories, and cities. Britain, already exhausted, would find itself fighting wave after wave of German air power. And this time, Germany would not be distracted or rushed. As Britain struggles in the air, the seas become even more dangerous. German submarines would attack supply ships from the United States with greater force. In real history, the Soviets received huge support from America through the Lend-Lease program. But in this alternate world, those supplies don't need to go east. Instead, the focus is on keeping Britain alive. The Atlantic becomes a battlefield of steel and silence. Convoys sink. Food grows scarce. British morale cracks. Churchill keeps speaking bravely, but the pressure grows heavier each month. Without the Eastern Front bleeding Germany dry, Britain stands, almost alone. Across the ocean, the United States watches Europe with increasing worry. American leaders understood a simple truth: a Europe controlled by Germany would be a direct threat to American security. But in this alternate timeline, that threat becomes even more real. Germany looks unstoppable. Britain looks cornered. And the Soviet Union stays quiet behind its borders, bound by a non-aggression pact that Stalin may not trust, but cannot break without reason. The United States may still join the war after Pearl Harbor, but now it faces a world where Germany's position is far stronger. The US would have to split its energy between Japan in the Pacific and a supercharged Germany dominating Europe. Meanwhile, inside the Soviet Union, a strange calm fills the air. Stalin expected Germany to betray him eventually. He knew war was coming, but without German troops near his borders, he starts reinforcing and rebuilding at his own speed. No burned cities, no desperate retreats, no freezing soldiers. Instead, Soviet factories grow. New tanks roll off production lines. Stronger officers replace the weaker ones purged earlier. The Red Army becomes larger, more prepared, and more modern. Stalin waits like a quiet storm, watching Germany strengthen, but also strengthening himself in return. While Europe holds its breath, Germany sets its sights on North Africa. In our real timeline, the Africa Corps was powerful, but limited, because Germany kept most of its strength for the Eastern Front. In this alternate world, that changes completely. Germany sends far more troops to help their Italian allies. Rommel receives more tanks, more fuel, and far better support. The British defences in North Africa start collapsing. Battles like El Alamein might never turn in Britain's favour. With enough force, Germany could push through Egypt, take the Suez Canal, and control access to Asia. The Middle Eastern oil fields become German targets, and if they capture them, Germany's war machine becomes even stronger. At this point, Japan faces a critical choice. In our timeline, Japan refused to attack the Soviet Union because Stalin still had a large army and Germany was already fighting them. But in this new world, Japan sees a Soviet Union not involved in any major war. Japan might take advantage and attack from the east, or Japan might choose to expand deeper into Southeast Asia, ignoring the Soviets entirely. Either way, the balance of power in Asia shifts, and every move Japan makes forces the United States to divide its focus even more. Back in Europe, Germany uses its extra time and resources to speed up technological development. In real history, Germany created early jet fighters, advanced submarines, and long-range rockets, but too late and in too few numbers. But without the drain of the Eastern War, these projects receive massive investment. The WWII rocket becomes deadlier. Jet fighters become more common. Submarines become harder to detect. The threat of new superweapons grows quickly, and this technology could change the course of the war even before nuclear weapons enter the picture. At this stage of the alternate timeline, the world feels like a tightening knot. The United States fights Japan across the Pacific while trying to hold back Germany's growth. Britain is barely standing, surviving each month with American help. Germany holds Europe, North Africa, and possibly much of the Middle East. The Soviet Union strengthens quietly, knowing that peace with Germany cannot last forever. Every country senses that a massive confrontation is coming, but no one knows who will strike first. And here is where the timeline splits into several possible paths. In the first path, Germany decides to strike the Soviet Union later, perhaps in 1943 or 1944, with a stronger army, better technology, and more resources. The invasion becomes even bigger than the real Operation Barbarossa. The land battles stretch across miles of fields and forests. The Soviet Union responds with its own massive force. The clash becomes catastrophic. This version of the war is longer, deadlier, and far more unpredictable. In the second path, the Soviet Union decides not to wait. Stalin, seeing Germany strengthen and spread across Europe, might launch a surprise attack of his own. Soviet tanks could roll west, catching Germany off guard. The roles reverse. Instead of Germany striking first, the Red Army becomes the aggressor. Europe becomes a battleground once again, but with a completely different opening move. In the third path, Germany avoids a huge land invasion and continues tightening its grip on the West. With enough submarines, Germany could cut off Britain's lifeline completely. Britain might fall under pressure, surrender, or be forced into negotiations. A Europe united under German control becomes a nightmare scenario for the United States, pushing America into a race against time. And then we reach the nuclear question. In real history, the United States built the atomic bomb first. But in this alternate world, the Germans have more time, more scientists, and fewer distractions. It's not impossible for Germany to reach nuclear technology earlier. A Nazi-controlled Europe armed with nuclear weapons would change the world completely, pushing other nations into either surrender or rapid development of their own atomic bombs. If the US still develops the bomb first, the war ends in a different way. Instead of dropping nuclear bombs only on Japan, America might consider using them on German military centers or strategic targets in Europe. The war could end with Berlin facing destruction, similar to Hiroshima or Nagasaki. In the final possibility, no one strikes first, and the war slowly transforms into a long, cold standoff between the United States, Germany, and the Soviet Union. Europe remains divided. Suspicion grows. Nations build nuclear weapons one after another. And the Cold War we know, the one between the US and the Soviet Union, becomes a completely different Cold War between three superpowers, each watching the other with fear and rivalry. But every version of this alternate history comes back to one moment. That morning in 1941, when Germany chooses not to invade the Soviet Union. A single decision that becomes the turning point of everything that follows. A moment where the war stretches into new shapes, filled with uncertainty and tension. A moment that shows how fragile history truly is, and how easily the world we know could have become a world we can hardly imagine.